Then she had discovered that she had a mother and father. You would think that a mother who'd found her lost child after 11 years would be ecstatically happy, and that is exactly what Molly expected her mother to be. But Molly's mother was not happy. Instead of being pleased, all she could think about was the past and how much had been stolen from her. It was true that she had been robbed. For Lucy Logan had been hypnotized, put in a deep trance, and controlled for 11 years by her own twin brother, the very brilliant hypnotist Cornelius Logan. Cornelius had stolen Lucy Logan's daughter Molly and put her in a nasty orphanage. It was Molly who saved Lucy's life. Molly herself released her mother Lucy from all of Cornelius's hypnotic commands, because Molly, although only 11, was a master hypnotist. Yes, that is a very important point. Molly was a master hypnotist. Molly hadn't always known that she was a hypnotist. In fact, her first inkling of it had been when she was 10, but she'd learned fast. So far, she'd used her hypnotic skills for herself and against people with bad intentions. Now she wanted to use them for something different. She looked sideways at the wings of the giant building she was in. Briarsville Park was massive. Molly wanted to turn part of it into a hypnotic hospital, a place where people with problems could come to be cured. Whether their problem was a fear of heights, or spiders, or an addiction to donuts, Molly's hypnotic hospital would sort them out. Molly looked at Lucy. She found it hard to believe that this woman was a world-class hypnotist. She seemed so limp and useless. Maybe she would even have to be her first patient. Molly couldn't understand Lucy. She would have thought she should be full of joy. Not only had she been reunited with Molly, she was also about to meet her long-lost husband again, for this was another thing Molly had brought about. Molly had discovered who Lucy's husband and Molly's father was. His name was Primo Cell. He had also been hypnotized and controlled by Cornelius Logan for 11 years. At this point, you may be wondering how a girl, even a master hypnotist like Molly, could ever challenge such a brilliantly accomplished adult hypnotist as Cornelius Logan. Well, master hypnotists have the power to make the world stand still. Molly possessed this gift, and in a hypnotic world-stopping battle, she had been able to overcome Cornelius and convince him he was a lamb. All that had happened in the last chapter of Molly's life, a chapter that Molly was still spinning from. Molly watched her mother stop beside two bushes in the shape of bush babies. Lucy stroked one and sadly put her hand on the other, as if it were a gravestone of a person she had loved. Molly sighed. Her mother was so full of regret, it was taking over her life. Molly picked up a silver-framed photograph from the glass side table and lay down on the floor to look at it. The orphans she had grown up with waved happily from the picture. It had been taken at Christmas. Molly herself smiled out from the picture too, her curly hair looking crazier than ever, blowing in the wind, her nose its potato self, her closely set green eyes laughing. They were enjoying themselves in warm Los Angeles in America, while Molly was here, far away from them, in cold Briarsville, with her sad mother. Molly chewed the inside of her cheek. Lucy Logan, slopping around the house, depressed in her dressing gown, was beginning to get on her nerves. Her mother's black mood hung in the air like an infectious flu waiting to be caught. In fact, Molly was already going down with it. She, too, had begun to turn over and over again in her mind the idea that her own life could have been so much better if it hadn't been for that revolting man Cornelius. There was something else, too. Molly shivered. She fingered the time-stopping crystal that hung like a huge diamond around her neck. She felt apprehensive, as if something weird was about to happen. Perhaps it was just this odd situation she was in with her mother that was making her uneasy. Molly put 2 fingers in her mouth and whistled. A second later, she heard the scrape of claws on polished oak floorboards, as Petula, her black pug, came skidding into the room. With a flying leap she landed on Molly's stomach, dropped a stone that she'd been sucking, and began licking Molly's neck. Petula always made Molly feel whole. She loved her so much that, provided Petula was there, Molly felt everything was all right. "Training for the circus now? Next time, how about a somersault?" Molly squeezed Petula and rubbed her side vigorously. "Oh, you're a good girl. Yes, you are." Petula licked Molly's nose. "Yes, you are." Molly hugged Petula. Then, getting up, she carried her over to the window. Pointing at Lucy Logan, she confided, "Look at her, Petula. I've never seen anyone so miserable. Here we are in this beautiful house, which is all hers now, with gardens and fields and horses and everything we need, and we've got our whole lives in front of us to enjoy, and she's like that. Why can't she get over the past? It's starting to make me feel bad. What shall we do?" Petula barked. "Sometimes I feel like hypnotizing her to cheer her up, but I can't hypnotize my own mother, Petula, can I?" Petula licked her lips. Molly clapped. "You've got it, Petula. Maybe she's not eating properly." Petula made a whining noise as if to agree that this was exactly the problem, and so, deciding that a good breakfast was what her mother needed, Molly left the drawing room. Together they passed along the bonsai tree passage, where in every alcove along the wall 400-year-old potted miniature Japanese trees stood on elegant tables. Side by side, they descended the grand stone time staircase, where hundreds of clocks hung ticking cacophonously on the walls. The window of the staircase was extra tall, and January light flooded in. Molly cupped her hand to her forehead as she squinted at the drive outside. A white wheelbarrow that read, "Green Fingers, the gardening name you can trust," along its side was standing on the gravel. One of the Green Fingers workers was there, in his unmistakable yellow company overall, unpacking a bag of shears and tools. The yellow men, as Molly thought of them, were always about, since at Briarsville Park there were so many topiary animals to clip and shape, and so many lawns and flower beds to see to. Molly knew most of the gardeners by name, but not this elderly man. He was new. She admired his purple turban, his large moustache, and his funny shoes. Petula barked. All right, I'm coming." Molly straddled the banister and slid all the way down to the bottom of the stairs, testing the echo as she went. "Petula! Petula! Petula!" The echoes swirled about her. Her ancestor, the original great hypnotist, Dr. Cornelius Logan, smiled down from his portrait. Molly picked up 3 pebbles that Petula had found in the rock garden, tried to juggle them, dropped them, and then made her way across the grand hall and down to the kitchen. Petula let Molly go on. She stopped in the hall and sniffed the air. There was strange scents about, exotic smells. They were coming from the new garden man. She wasn't sure that she trusted him. Under the pepper and spices, he smelled nervous. She'd already tried to communicate her worries to Molly, but with no success. Molly had interpreted her barks and lip-licking as a message that she ought to hurry up and do some cooking. Petula decided to sit in her basket under the stairs and guard the front door. She hopped into it, tossed her toy mouse out, and picked up her special stone to suck. Then, finding the cushion too lumpy, she circled 5 times to flatten it just the way that she liked it. Finally, she sat down to have a good think. The man outside might be a threat to Molly, she thought. And if he was dangerous, who would protect Molly? The woman was no help. The woman reminded Petula of a Labrador she'd once seen, who'd fallen into a river and half drowned. Petula sucked her stone. She'd found it in the big room upstairs under the bed. It was one of those special stones like the one that Molly wore around her neck. She knew that Molly could make time stand still when she was holding her special stone. She wondered whether she might be able to do that too. She'd really be able to protect Molly if she could. Petula had already mastered rudimentary hypnotism. She'd hypnotized